Welcome to another riveting episode of Health is Wealth, only on Business Access TV. I am Whitney McCoy. Now, today we're talking about a topic that affects us all, sleep. And joining me in this episode is sleep apnea expert and respiratory therapist, Mr. Gregory Arneaud. There's a lot to discuss, so stay tuned.
My journey started about 25 years ago when I became a respiratory therapist and learning that many health consequences was related to a sleep breathing condition called sleep apnea, which we treated with what we call CPAP therapy. Having been in that space and seeing the impact it made on people's lives was somewhat intriguing to see, because I didn't really see any type of medical condition that saw that immediate turnaround and benefits for clients just by engaging with some new innovation of technology. This led to me obviously watching my grandmother, who I grew up, and my father also being impacted by sleep apnea, how it affected their lives and the health consequences that she suffered from. Was my wake-up call, as well as my father's wake-up call, to making some changes in the way that he thought about sleep and utilizing treatment for sleep apnea, which has changed. Unfortunately, one of the common causes is weight gain. And we all are probably suffering trying to lose a couple pounds here or there. And obviously with the culture that we live in and how amazing the food is, we tend to not think and understand that sleep actually has a role in how you manage your weight. During sleep, during the stages of what we call rapid eye movement, REM sleep, there's a release of what we call leptin and ghrelin hormones that control our desire to eat, to know when we're full, as well as our metabolism rate, most often which leads to obesity. Issues of having lack of oxygen during your sleep impacts not just your hormone levels, but your ability to manage your sugars, causing you to become insulin resistant, affecting your mental capacity of awareness and alertness throughout the day, and your ability to consolidate emotions and thoughts, and your moods, depending on how well you sleep. In the Caribbean, unfortunately, due to all the various types of NCDs, including cardiovascular disease of heart attack or stroke, which is about 30% of the population of Jamaica die from, the underlying cause most often is never identified, that they're not getting proper oxygen while they're sleeping, and it's impacting all parts of their bodies. It's impacting their cardiovascular system and increasing risk of hypertension and other erectile issues and problems that most people are unaware of that's related to sleep because of the culture.
Right.
We think snoring is just part of life. We all know someone in our family that snores.
Right. And as a sleep apnea expert with over 25 years of experience, might I add, what trends have you observed in sleep health across the Caribbean?
Well, fortunately, I'm seeing the turn has happened, right? I think we've now hit the corner after about 12, 13 years of hitting this pavement, trying to bring more awareness to these concerns and training physicians and helping to bring more awareness not only to the medical fraternity, but to the public at large through social media platforms and one-on-one engagements and events. I'm starting to see that the progressiveness of physicians, especially in Jamaica, are far ahead than I've seen in other countries that I've had the privilege of visiting and working with. So having started the project in Trinidad, and to obviously now see that it took me to the Cayman Islands, into St. Lucia and Barbados and the Bahamas, I'm just excited that I'm now here in Jamaica, making it my new home and a way that I can make an impact and change in the healthcare standards here as well.
Okay, great. And many people underestimate the impact of poor sleep. Could you elaborate on some of the serious health risks associated with conditions like sleep apnea?
Well, sleep apnea, most people would not resonate with as thinking that they have sleep apnea, but we're sure they would think that they have insomnia, which is a difficulty to fall asleep or maybe even to stay asleep. And most often it's about 30 to 40% related to sleep apnea, wherein you're not breathing correctly during sleep. You most often hear the rattling of the back of the palate as that sound that somewhat kind of grows on you over time if your partner is doing it, and you kind of live with the consequences, obviously, of trying to get a good night's sleep if it gets out of hand. But the issues behind this is more or less that sleep apnea is impacting a global population of people. This is not a Caribbean problem. It just so happens that in the Caribbean, due to the lack of expertise and knowledge and or resources and solutions, it's detrimental to the cause of life here, and why motor vehicle accidents, workplace injury, heart attacks and strokes, and just good quality of life is being impacted because these particular tests are not being performed as a routine option for assessing patients' health and care, which would eventually would hope to get there, because what happens in your sleep will definitely impact what's going on with you while you're awake.
Of course. And practical strategies for improving sleep quality. Could you share a few simple tips for people struggling with sleep issues, maybe?
Well, I can't take the credit for developing it or creating it, but these are great tips to improve your sleep etiquette. One of it, always make your room a sanctuary for sleep. Make it sleep friendly. No phones should be in there, no televisions turned on, I know the things that we all have gone accustomed to thinking that was a part of what the bedroom was supposed to be like. But unfortunately, because of the distractions of things that we take into our bedroom, our mind is not conditioned to believe that the area of that bedroom is for sleep. There should be two things happening in that bedroom: sleep and also, the intimacy that comes along with having a partner. But what we have to understand is that our routines have a lot to do with how well we sleep and how well we're going to feel energized to be able to perform our day. So having the right temperature in the room, removing, obviously, like we talked about, the exposure to blue light, to the phones and computers and televisions, making sure the room has nice bedding, wearing what you're wearing to sleep is actually important to how well you sleep as well, the positionings of your pillows, more importantly, the sound, it must be nice and quiet, and getting your mind into this state of peace and relaxation through meditation or maybe light stretching or maybe even doing some devotion. By getting to sleep at the same time each day and waking up would help to train your circadian rhythm to best help you to be able to feel drowsy when it's time to sleep and be alert when it's time to wake up.
Okay, great. And aside from the blue lighting, are there any other specific lifestyle changes or habits you'd recommend to combat disorders like sleep apnea?
I think the first change has to happen mentally. We have to view and change our mindset about how we see sleep. Because you can't expect change without changing the way you think. Children are being impacted in poor sleeping habits as a child because they're being exposed to these phones and iPads as a way to keep them distracted so that we as parents can be able to handle our responsibilities. But unfortunately, due to the access of so much activity through social media, whether it be movie marathons on Netflix, children of this generation have more access to things that are distracting their ability to sleep than we've ever had coming up. This trend and how we don't understand how sleep impacts our life because of the constant hustle and bustle that we have to do to make ends meet, to kind of keep up with what's going on and be relevant, be with all the current events, the carnivals, the fetes, the parties, the things that we enjoy. Unfortunately, we compromise sleep for this, even to try to become successful in life. And some of the most important things I've learned is looking at successful people like LeBron James and Jeff Bezos and people who truly have a sleep regimen that's kind of the underlying factor of how they've been so successful and how they put so much priority towards that. Is a good idea for many people like us to figure that to make more and do more, we probably need to sleep better. And one of those decisions starts with how you see and view sleep.
Of course. And then in addition to being, sleep apnea expert and a respiratory therapist, you're also the clinical director and founder for ISD Health Solutions. What role does ISD Health Solutions play in addressing sleep-related health challenges across the Caribbean?
Well, for over a decade, I have been in the Caribbean, starting where my heritage began in Trinidad and Tobago, where my mother and father is from, as I mentioned, and now I'm taking this opportunity to go throughout the region helping people. ISD was bridging the gap of the lack of expertise and knowledge of physicians that were trained in the area of sleep medicine and or providing easy to use diagnostic tools that they can do in the convenience of their own beds to capture their natural sleeping environment and data that could be analyzed by physicians who are boarded in sleep medicine by the American Academy of Sleep Medicine and also the Caribbean Sleep Disorders Association. This initiative was something that started, like I said, back in 2011, 2012, and every day I get to meet amazing people that also need to sleep. And more importantly, they may have some challenges with their self or their bedside partner in trying to get a good night's sleep due to untreated sleep apnea. We're trying to solve the healthcare crisis of the NCD problems of obesity and hypertension and cardiovascular disease and diabetes that's directly related to the onset because of uncontrolled sleeping disorders or poor sleep patterns. So we're here to bridge that gap, bring the expertise, bring the education, the awareness, and more importantly, the solutions that will help empower each and every one of us to take control of our sleep that can now allow us to take control of our lives.
Great. And then your book, The Wake Up Call, How You Sleep is How You Live. It's been well received, might I add. What key insights from the book would you like to highlight?
Oh man, I never thought I was going to be an author. It's even shocking to me sometimes to see myself in this book. But I believe that it was something that inspired me because of what happened to my father, having a stroke, and believing that he was in a good shape because he was working out 6-7 miles a day on the beach and didn't have any other health consequences, and probably thought that he was immune to the challenges that sleep apnea or sleep deprivation could lead in his life. But unfortunately, his stroke was an eye-opener for him. As well as an eye-opener for me, thinking I was going to eventually lose my dad. It was like the first time I had to really put that in perspective, which was so much, I would say, stressful on me. But to see that he made it through and made a decision to address his sleep apnea by starting therapy was something that I was very happy to see. At the same time, realizing that it changed his life was what gave me the passion to try to leave a legacy of information that can help children, men, adults, women anywhere in the world, but especially in the Caribbean, because of the lack of information and understanding of this is why I felt this book had to be published and had to be presented as a tool to help people get more knowledge of the understanding of the importance of sleep.
And how can Jamaicans and persons across the diaspora access your book? And what's the key takeaway from it? Like once I access it and I read it, what are you hoping that readers take away from it?
Well, first off, it's available on Amazon. Everybody has to have a book on Amazon these days to get global access. But in the Caribbean, I'm working with Fontana Pharmacy at various locations, as well as in the Norman Manley Airport. We also have the book there, and more importantly, we have the audiobooks that some people tend to have a better opportunity to get information because of their busy lifestyles, to be able to have that information read to them, so to say. It gives them the ability to learn and gain a little more respect and an appreciation for why we sleep. I guess the takeaway is that I just want to see that people's lives change and healthcare is improved in the lives of people that have realized that sleep health is just as important as the nutrition of what you eat, and as well as what you do in exercising, because without proper sleep, the takeaway I would say is that if you don't sleep well, you don't live well. So how you sleep is how you live, how you sleep is how you look, how you sleep is how you learn and work and love. So we would hope that everyone takes away something from this book with the many different stories and references, and just the story of my life, how I fell into the industry of sleep and have not been able to wake up since. No pun intended.
Right. And then tools. What tools are necessary to assist with sleep apnea? I see you have a mask right there. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, sleep apnea comes in various forms. You can have obstructive sleep apnea, and or it can have also central sleep apnea, which is a complex sleep disorder type of a case. In this regard, obstructive sleep apnea is used to open up the airway. Technology that could open up the airway would be CPAP therapy, oral appliance therapy, surgery in some cases to remove tonsils and adenoids or reshaping the uvula. These are things that cause obstruction, not allowing air to get into the body, causing, once again, the changes in your fight or flight response of the heart speeding up during sleep because your oxygen levels have dropped, and the stress that's put on the cardiovascular system long term is obviously the effects of not getting proper treatment for this. Obstructive sleep apnea is so common that more than 1 billion plus people suffer from it, and unfortunately in the Caribbean, with about almost 10 million lives in the English-speaking Caribbean, we're assessing that close to 25 to 30% of this population is affected by this and may not even realize it. Taking a test is the first way. No one knows what happens in their sleep. So unless you have a test, you can't gauge sleep based on how you feel or what you think your partner told you. But more importantly, it's a way for you to understand, just as much as you wouldn't know what your blood type was without having to do some type of a formal test. Sleep is something that evolves. So how you're sleeping today and how you were sleeping years before are two different things in some cases, because trauma can change your life. You know, PTSD is real. People are stressed. the security of where they live, the financial struggles, the relationship woes. I mean, things that we don't take in consideration that impact sleep are all ways that we are all suffering individually and collectively in the area of sleep and poor sleep health, hygiene. So taking advantage of what we're offering is a way to address not just sleep apnea, but insomnia and other sleeping disorders is through a telemedicine approach of utilizing the expertise of doctors, as we mentioned, boarded in sleep medicine. Our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Wendell Bob, is a highly decorated physician born in Trinidad in the Caribbean and a triple boarded physician in neurology and neurophysiology and sleep medicine, and is actually the active Veteran Affairs sleep medicine physician in Washington, D.C. So has a wealth of knowledge and expertise in the field, and obviously through his passion of trying to make a difference in the Caribbean where he was also born, it's exciting to have his it's exciting to have him on board with this initiative to try to bring more awareness and solutions to the people in the Caribbean, and kind of teaming up with whoever we can in their various territories to continue to make sure that everyone hears the message before it's way too late, before we can do anything about it at that point.
Okay, great. And then you mentioned tests. Does ISD Health Solutions offer that test?
We provide tests that you can do conveniently in the convenience of your own home that are FDA approved, but more importantly, overseen and interpreted by board certified sleep physicians and local physicians that we've partnered with ample knowledge and competency of the understanding of diagnosis of sleep apnea. Sleeping in your natural environment is always the best thing to do. Sleeping in strange environments, unfortunately, tend to take away from your traditional habits that you would, and takes away from the ability for you to get a good night's rest due to some anxiety sometimes. So sleeping at home for multiple nights with our device allows us to be able to take a look at patterns from night to night. There are no 2 days in our lives that are the same, nor are there 2 nights that are the same. So looking at your patterns and habits helped us to better determine what would be the best recommendation for treatment. And if so, our program is covered by all of the healthcare providers across the region, including Guardian, Sagicor, Canopy, Tactile, Beacon, Pan American Life, to name a few of them. So it's good to know that your insurance can be utilized for the needs of testing and for treatment if medically necessary, and that we've lobbied to be able to have this as a solution for persons to take advantage of through their plans.
And how do I know if I need this test?
Need this test? The first thing you need to do is go online and schedule your free sleep consultation at isdhealthsolutions.com. Fill out a questionnaire, tell us a little bit about yourself, a history and profile, answer a few questions that will allow us to know how we can best tailor-make the conversation with our sleep care professionals and provide for you a diagnostic testing solution that we may be able to pick up at your local pharmacy soon enough, as well as different doctors' offices and medical institutions that we're partnering with, and start the journey to understanding more about what your sleep is entailing and how we can provide a solution to improving your sleep, because better sleep means a better you.
Right. How you sleep is how you live.
Right.
And looking ahead, what's your vision for the future of sleep across the diaspora?
Wow, I'm just hoping that sleep at some point becomes priority in how you assess someone's health, and not just the last thought on the bottom of the totem pole, but more or less at the forefront of the understanding of how to manage diabetes, hypertension, weight gain, cardiovascular disease, the mental health issues that are affected by this, that corporations look at their employees and understanding that their health and wellness is very important, but more importantly, how well they sleep is going to determine their productivity and the risks they put on your organization of accidents and errors. And lastly, that the medical institutions on a whole, the ministries of health, educational sources are promoting good sleep habits, training children to understand why we sleep, what happens to us in sleep, how it's going to be a major contributor to how they're going to be successful in academics, how they will be able to achieve their goals, whether it be physically in sports, and at the same time the development process of their mind, body, and emotions as they're looking forward to entering into adulthood and realizing that sleep is going to be a part of their whole life,
right,
whether you want to believe it or not, and that taking advantage of this knowledge in the early stages could mean a whole lot into the outcomes they'll see in their lives to come. Find us at ISD Health Solutions. We have a brand new location in Kingston, 218 Mountain View Avenue, Unit 103. As well as our various locations in Trinidad and San Fernando and Port of Spain, and soon to come, Barbados, St. Lucia, Guyana, Cayman, and many more as access points of delivery of that care that we can provide to help improve your sleep. Follow us on social media, and always remember, how you sleep is how you live.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Arneaud, for talking with us on this episode of Health as Well. It was a pleasure, and I might be back.
Looking forward to having you. Have a great day.